Hey guys, how you going? I hope you're all doing very well. This afternoon I'm going to be doing my top 10 favourite horror films of 2015, so hopefully you find some new films in this list. I'm pretty sure that there are going to be a few films here that you haven't heard about or not many people talk about, so hopefully it creates something a little bit different. So I'm going to get started from number 10 and work our way down to number 1. So number 10 is a movie called Extinction. This stars Matthew Fox. It is directed by the same director of a Spanish classic called Kidnapped. I thought this is a great post-apocalyptic zombie type of film. It had great characters. It wasn't necessarily about the zombies, it was more about basically coping under catastrophic events. I thought this was very in-depth, and I thought the ending was very harrowing and quite sad as well. So the reason that you really care for these characters, great cinematography, and the story is very intriguing, and that is the reason why Extinction gets my number 10. Number 9, we go to The Pack. Now this is an Australian film. It's a creature feature style of film, an animals attack film, so if you like that kind of stuff then this is going to appeal to you. This is a very surprising film. I was expecting to hate this movie. It's an Australian movie based in the countryside. You've got this farmer who's living inside with his family. They're trapped inside this house while these rabid dogs go around and they're starting to hunt people off, and they're trying to get inside the house. It does get a little bit silly towards the end, but I thought there were some great atmospheric moments. The animal attacks were filmed very well, and there were some genuinely suspenseful set pieces too. So all handled very well, which made The Pack one of the most surprising films. Therefore, it is thoroughly deserving of number 9. Number 8, we go to another film that is similar to Extinction, based on the fact that it is a post-apocalyptic kind of world, and this is Hidden. Hidden is about this family who are trapped underground after catastrophic events take place. You are oblivious to what's going on outside this underground bunker, so it creates a lot of imagination, a lot of suspense. You feel that something really bad's outside, but you don't know exactly. There's a little twist at the end that I thought was fairly decent, I didn't see coming, and overall it's not the best film, but it's certainly a movie that is worthy of anyone's top 10. So it's number 8, Hidden. Number 7, we have a film that a lot of people didn't like. They said it was boring, they said it wasn't horror, but I strongly disagree. I really like this film, and that is M. Night Shyamalan's The Visit. The Visit, I thought, it was a found footage film. I thought there were some fairly decent characters. I love the grandparents in the film, and then the situation gets weirder and weirder, and it ultimately adds up to a very entertaining climax. It took me back to my days when I was in Cub Scouts telling spooky stories over the campfire. It just had that sort of feel to it, and I just thought that this is a clear indication of that M. Night Shyamalan really belongs in the horror genre, and that's why The Visit gets number 7. Number 6, we have a Christmas film that I reviewed a few weeks ago. This is called Krampus. I love the mythology of this movie. This is basically about this horrible creature that descends upon this family's home because they're not really getting into the Christmas spirit. It has some really, really funny moments. The acting, Toni Collette, you've got Adam Scott, you've got David Koechner, you've got a whole host of very good actors who look like they're having a lot of fun, therefore it translates through the screen very well. Great cinematography, great acting, some really funny set pieces, and also some scary set pieces in there as well. So this is the ideal film for you to watch over the Christmas period. Number 5, we have an Irish film. This is something I was really surprised with. I had nothing about it, and that's called The Hallow. The Hallow is definitely a movie that delves into mythology. This is basically about some creatures that live in the woods, and they're basically trying to take this family's baby. And I thought it was very creative, very, very atmospheric. The mythology is something I really like. The fantasy aspect of it was something that I wasn't expecting as much of. But then you really care for these characters, and you really care about the plot of everything involved. So The Hallow, definitely a film to check out if you are a fan of the fantasy type of horror films. I really enjoyed this movie. Number 4, we go to a movie that really reminded me of the works of Peter Jackson, early Peter Jackson and his horror, and this is We Are Still Here. This is a very quirky film. The humour was very offbeat. Not a lot of people talk about the humour, but I really got a humorous element to it. I thought the characters were very intriguing, the overall idea of the house was very intriguing, and then right at the end it really steps up gear as far as gore is concerned. It was very nasty gore, and in the end what it was is just a very entertaining film that I would highly recommend to anyone out there. A lot of people talk about this one, so it has got a lot of recognition, which it thoroughly deserves, and I think this is a worthy inclusion in anyone's top 10. So that's number 4, where We Are Still Here. Number 3 is once again another throwback to early Peter Jackson. This is a New Zealand horror comedy called Deathgasm. Deathgasm mixes death metal with horror very well. There's got some fantastic gore effects, very crude humour, and the humour and the horror combine very well. It's scary in some places, it'll make you laugh out loud in other places. This is everything that New Zealand horror comedy is all about. So if you go in there expecting a very high production, sort of high value, high quality horror comedy from Deathgasm, you're not going to come away disappointed. So that's number 3, Deathgasm. Now number 2 is a movie that not a lot of people liked. A lot of people were very disappointed based on the fact that this director is absolutely fantastic. He directed numerous other films that have been absolute knockouts. And so for that reason I came into it with limited expectations. I know better than to judge a movie based on what others think, but it's very difficult after a lot of people pan this movie to really go in there expecting a very good movie. But I had my fingers crossed that it would be good, and thankfully it was very good. It was much better than I thought it would be. I think a lot of people misunderstood this film. They were expecting something a little bit different, but for me I thought this is very subtle, very creepy and eerie, and that is Crimson Peak. So Crimson Peak, directed by Guillermo del Toro. If you like the feeling of Pan's Labyrinth with the fantasy element, you're going to really like Crimson Peak. I thought the visuals are absolutely outstanding. The set design was absolutely phenomenal. Very gothic feeling, very mysterious feeling. A lot of people said it wasn't horror, but I thought it was very good horror. Very subtle horror, but it ultimately it snowballs into something very big, and it has a lot of brutality at the end, very reminiscent of the brutality of Pan's Labyrinth. I just think this is a great mystery film, and I just think that a lot of people went into it with the wrong expectations, because a lot of people just seem to have the same opinion, that it's all about visuals and no story. But I just got something so much different from this film. I think this is fantastic, and that is why Crimson Peak sits at my second best film for 2015 in the horror genre. Now this leads up to my number 1 film. Now this is a movie that really took me by surprise, because when it comes to this subgenre, I don't feel a lot of people take it seriously. There hasn't been any memorable horror films from this subgenre. So for that reason, I skipped the opportunity to watch this movie for so long. I saw the poster and I thought, this looks really bad, I'm not even going to bother. But when I finally got to watch it, I was absolutely blown away by how fantastic this film is. And that is my number 1 film, Bone Tomahawk. Now this stars Kurt Russell, Patrick Wilson, you've got Matthew Fox, a whole host of other great actors who combine very well to create very good characters. It's a western, but it's also a horror, but it doesn't go into the paranormal type of horror. It's a very realistic horror. It's the horror of the brutality that these natives have, and I think that's what contributed the horror element of it. It's a movie about survival. It's a movie about persistence and having hope and faith that things will turn out well. It's a very slow burner, but ultimately it concludes in a very rewarding climax. I loved everything about this movie. Cinematography, the violence, the characters, and just the overall feeling of it. It felt like an old-fashioned western mixing with horror, and it just combines brilliantly well, very natural, and in the end what you get is just one of the best horror films that you will see that no one ever talks about. So this is definitely an undiscovered gem, and that is the reason why Bone Tomahawk gets my number 1 mantle as the best horror film of 2015. Alright guys, that's it for my top 10. If you agree or disagree, please feel free to drop a comment. If you want to abuse me because my picks were absolutely ridiculous, then please feel free. It doesn't bother me. If you want to agree with me, then cool. If you want to drop in your own top 10 movies that I may not have seen, then please feel free. Just thank you for a great 2015 of horror. Hopefully 2016 is going to be even better in the horror, in the genre that a lot of us love. So until next time, keep watching movies, and I'll see you guys later.